You ever recorded?
Yeah.
Oh.
I said, hey.
What's going down?
I thought we were doing one word at a time.
Wait, did I say? How
That
many
was like
words did I
4
say?
words. It was 4 words.
What's going down?
If we were redneck, it could probably be all one word. Like, what's going on? I could make it one word. Fuck it, man. Let's just roll. Like it.
Hey, what's going down on the recovery pod?
Okay, thanks. So,
What, do I have to start?
No. You're the only person I can look at that deflects. I always feel like I got something I could roll into, but then I have a weird thing with control. See, when I try to control something, it does not fucking work. Like the first time we all potted, I had an agenda. I was just lost because every sidestep from my agenda was just taking me out of the flow. Same thing in a meeting. If I'm like, oh, I know what I'm about to say tonight, or I'm thinking too much, I start talking and I'm not free to walk. I'm just rolling back to the line. So, I mean, maybe this could be a talk about expectations.
Okay.
How when we have a rigid path plan, we tend to get a little too focused on specifics and fuck the whole flow up to where even a side step could be a step forward, but since it wasn't the step we thought we were going to take, it's now a problem that we keep circling and focused on that one step that we missed instead of just walking forward.
Instead of being present. See, so the thing with control with me is the reason why I haven't fully let it go is because has worked for me, and it's kind of a curse because most of my life I thought I had things under control, and I have gotten away with it because I am a fucking control freak, and I haven't gotten to see how what.
Nothing. I'm just looking at you.
Why did you look at me like that?
You were talking.
I don't like that look. God damn it. So I haven't gotten to a point where I have proven to myself that this doesn't work for me. So I don't know what it could be like to just kind of let things go and just be the way they are. Because I'm sure it would be so much better, but it's kind of like an addict and addiction. You know, you don't know a better way yet. You just think that you're stuck in that shit. And, yeah. I'm done.
Well, yeah, and you kind of just came to that tonight. You know, that's kind of cool. I wasn't even expecting that when I said it, but like, I don't know, like staying too close to the path, like you really only think you're getting somewhere. Like you don't know where you're gonna go, but you have this idea of where you're gonna go. And for me, it's like setting a life plan. It's good to think of a life plan, and I'm sure other people do that, but they probably don't attach to it with the fuel of passion that addicts do, because we are so passionate, right? So when I set a goal for something, I have to get there because I have so much more going on than the average regular person. I have self-worth issues that I'm unconsciously tying to this goal. I have, a fear of failure. So if I shoot my shot and I don't get it, I'm going to feel the defeat harder than maybe a regular person would. And it's going to cause me to overthink and then run like I always do. But the more specific I make my target, and then even furthermore, the more specific my path to get to the target. So it's like I'm trying to shoot like a dart. The more specific the target, the smaller it is. And when I restrict the pathway, it's like putting little fucking obstacle course barriers the whole way there. I gotta get this fucker right through there, and
into a tiny hole.
Yeah.
It's
On top of that, as addicts, we don't have good acceptance of our feelings. Like, you know, if things don't go that way, it's like we want to just shut down and use.
Mm. So I appreciate. I'm doing a lot of listening, and you know, it's so much of what we're talking about is applicable, as always, to my particular path right now. And you know, one of the things that popped into my head when we were talking about the pathway that we expect, no matter what it is, as addicts, we as addicts are used to pushing our own will. We are used to being the maestro of our own lives because that's the way that we lived for a very long time. And speaking from personal experience, when I am pushing my own will down a predetermined path that I've already laid out as a given, if you will, you know, I expect this to happen if I do this. Any diversion from that path, any redirection, any sidestep, like you called it, Stephen, mind fucks me completely. I get stuck, right, in a spinning cycle because I am my own God in a sense. Like I cannot process in my head how something could go against what I expect. Right? I can't. If I'm not in touch with a power greater than myself, and I'm not in a place where I'm constantly turning my life over, aka stepping away from my expected path, accepting the fact that I don't have a roadmap. I don't know where the fuck I'm going. I just know that I'm here right now. If I'm not doing that, when shit goes south or sideways, I fucking mind fuck myself into a state of emotional paralysis would be the best way for me to describe it, where I'm spinning, I lose touch with what's real and what's not real, because I can't, if I'm in this state of unconsciousness, I can't comprehend the fact that shit's not going my way, you know? And so that's the realization that came into my head while I was listening to you guys talking about the path and what our expectations are. And, you know, it's real important for me. It is very important for me, in order to remain in the solution and not in the disease, you know, to continuously turn at every point of every decision point, turn it over to something greater than myself, seek help, seek advice from others that have been in similar situations, listen for my higher power through others, right? And utilize that kind of connectivity in order to stay in touch with reality. Because if I don't do that, I'll lose touch with reality. I get stuck on a sidestep for sure. And that's not fun at all, to get stuck like that. And thank God we've got a system, a process that we can implement, that we are all at a point where we, you know, if we get stuck, we can quickly, at least semi-quickly, sometimes quicker than other times, we can identify it. We can apply our program. We can recalibrate. We can remain happy or sad in a serene state for a minute and then balance out, right? That's what it does for me.
Hell yeah.
I've had a lot of good tests on that over the past week, so I'm grateful.
You must have prayed for patience or something.
Some of that experience in the pocket again that we've talked about in the past, like, you know, this is we certainly I don't have any idea why shit happens the way it happens, and I'm okay with that. at this point. You know, because if I'm not, in the past, when I have not been okay with that, I have made very self-destructive decisions over and over and over again to deal with not being okay with that, you know, all based out of my own will, all based out of my feels, and not the path that we know, that we have seen work for others. Therefore, we implement so that it works for ourselves. So,
yeah.
No, I like that. Like I used to think that I needed to know everything in order to be okay, in order to survive. I needed to know why things happened the way they did. I needed to put everything into an equation, into an algorithm. This happened because of this, and then that is due to this. But that shit does not matter. I don't need to know any of that. I don't need to know anything. Knowing kind of like sucks. Like knowing is a curse. And I feel like we already talked about this in a previous pod, but whatever.
Say it again.
But the voice of knowledge, like knowing is just thoughts, and knowing is an attempt to control. So it's like, if I know this algorithm of how this happened, then next time, you know, I can do this to make this happen. But this is where, like, when you come to at like a stalemate with yourself, when you just don't really know, like that's where higher power comes in. Like you said before, Wes, I forgot your name.
Oh, it's right there.
The higher power has to come to you, and that's how it comes to you, is when you get to a point where you don't know shit about shit. You realize that everything you knew before was wrong. You don't know what to do. You don't know how things are going to happen, and you don't know yourself. You don't know life, why we're on the planet Earth. Like, that's where I had to literally just put my hands up and like, yeah, higher power will take care of all that. I just have to do my part. I have to do what's for the good of all, you know, and just give up all that control to higher power. Yeah.
I want to jump in, but I've seen Eric unmute like 3 times.
Aww.
So I don't want to. Looking
Get it,
out for you,
Eric.
boy.
Pookie.
All right. So I think I mentioned this in a meeting a couple times, but I always would have a problem with the word hope. And I don't mean like the inspiring hope in others aspect, but like for me, hope, it's always like, I hope this happens, and then it's like this specific thing. And I don't know, I look at hope as like a different form of expectation. And have you guys read the definition of hope recently? Because I read it this morning, actually. It's weird we're talking about this, but the definition is a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. And yeah, I don't know.
That's it.
It's interesting.
Right.
That's,
Yeah.
Look at that.
I know.
That's crazy. So like, no, that's good. And totally. So, all right. Too many things processing. So on the hope thing, it's okay to have an expectation. Like, we're going to have them, you know, and we talked about this before, so I won't go too into it. I think the 3 of us talked about it last time.
Yeah.
Where it's cool to have the expectation, but you have to realize it's an expectation and bring along with that the acceptance that it is not reality. It's not a definite. It doesn't have to happen to be okay with you. You know, it doesn't have to go down the way you want it to go down. Otherwise, the acceptance is gone. So the not knowing is great. All right. So like while you were talking, Anna, I'm thinking, would we have made it if we knew how our lives were going to play out? You know what I mean? If you told me when I was like 13 that my life was about to go in the direction it was going to go in, and I knew what was going to happen, you don't think I would have I'm not going through all that shit.
Yeah.
I'm not about to go through 10, 15 years of this madness, loneliness, and depression. Fuck this. I'm out. On the flip side, if I knew how the rest of my life was going to play out fucking working at Walmart, and everything was peachy keen, like, I don't know if I'd want to do that either. You know what I mean? The not knowing is a blessing because, like, it keeps us re-sparked and reintegrated with life all over again and renewed. Like, all right, you know, I got this situation, this job, this life, this whatever. If everything was a cakewalk, we'd get bored. If everything was a fucking roller coaster, we'd jump the fuck off. It's nice to have this destroy, rebuild, not in the extreme sense where we need to purposefully make everything happen. Like, I've even had those thoughts like, well, I've pretty much learned all I can learn in this program. Not that I believe that, but I've had those thoughts. Might as well relapse and start over again. Like, I need something new to work on. You know what I mean? Like, those thoughts come and it's kind of scary, but I think it's because still water is boring. I have to be moving towards something. If I'm not building something, I'm breaking something down, you know? And I think that just keeps us engaged, you know what I mean? Instead of just this flat line or this, you know what I mean?
I got something to throw out there. What do you guys think about vulnerability and the importance of vulnerability to recovery? This is something that I've been talking to some folks about over the past week. You know, if I'm in a place where, in order to take suggestions, in order to implement a recovery program in my life, I have to be in a place of vulnerability. That is a place that's based out of spiritual principles of compassion for other people. That is a place that's based out of open-mindedness, right? That is vulnerable. A vulnerable state is a state where I have to be courageous in order to be vulnerable, right? I think a true measure of courage is the level of vulnerability that I have. Because if I'm putting walls up and shutting people out, it's because I'm scared. It's because I'm afraid that somebody might have something for me that I might not like to hear, but it might be the best thing for me to hear, right? So if I'm vulnerable, I'm able to hear those things in an open-minded sense. I'm able to implement suggestions, and I'm able to stay outwardly focused, not necessarily stuck in my own will. And it's been a focus of mine this week. The bad news is we as addicts have, once we become vulnerable, because of our past and the fact that we ain't letting nobody up in anything, right? Because we don't want to deal with those kind of feels. We'd much rather just go get fucked up, right? And not deal with something. The bad news is once we get vulnerable, we have to feel. Or maybe that's the good news, right? It's actually, maybe it's good and bad news. Fuck, because, you know, some of the stuff that we feel and that we inevitably will feel due to life on life's terms manifesting itself ain't fun. You know, it's not something that's enjoyable, but we still have to sit in that shit and identify it. And it's, you know, that's what vulnerability is. It's making myself open to catching a punch from somebody. You know, it's putting my guard down a little bit. And those punches sometimes it's been my experience that I have no choice but to leave myself open. In order to live this new way of life, I must leave myself open. Because if I go, if I shut it down and I put the walls up, I go closed-minded. I start thinking that I got the plan. You know what I'm saying? And I also start removing myself from situations where, I'm feeling something. I run from it. So, yeah, vulnerability is important to me. It is a state that, while it's a state that sometimes hurts, but it is a state that keeps me online with this program, and if I have faith in a higher power, if I have faith in something greater than myself, the fear that is associated with the vulnerability is kept in check because of faith. And that's real easy to say and much harder to live sometimes. Much harder to live. Because fear creeps in all over the place. And if I'm standing in a fucking field completely out of ammo and there's a whole army of soldiers in front of me locked and loaded, that's vulnerability, right? And that shit's scary.
It kind of comes down to like being vulnerable, because really the people we see in meetings in early recovery who have every guard in the world up are never going to penetrate to that core. You know what I'm saying? They're just going to keep putting on their front, saving face, just too much armor. But I feel at the same time, I've seen people who are really emotionally raw and too vulnerable. So I think it comes down to balance. Like, we need armor, you know what I mean? Because one soldier standing in front of 1,000 doesn't sound like a safe plan either, you know what I mean? And going to a meeting, pouring your entire heart out at the mercy of anybody in the room who will tell you about yourself, maybe open you up too much to hearing things from maybe the not most reliable source. You know what I mean? So again, it's one of those balance things where you want to know when you're holding up the armor in fear and purely just to like save that face. But you don't need to do the other extreme where you drop every piece of armor and tell every deep, dark secret to everybody you talk to. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but it's good to find that balance. There's things I have not said in a meeting. You know what I mean? Nothing that's super crazy, but nothing I really need to air out or lose sleep over. You know what I mean? And sometimes it comes in baby steps. Sometimes it comes with reading the room. Like, I'd share more in our regular NA group than I would in a random one of the other meetings I used to go to back then, because I felt comfortable there. I felt like I trusted the people. I felt like if they gave me some advice, I would trust what they said. There's people that've been at meetings that I went to that I wouldn't fucking probably trust half of what they say. And they got decades more than I do, but they're toxic as fuck.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think it's all balanced. It's time and place. It's everything's definitely situational, but yes, like what you're saying, all the internal stuff that's going on, the armor holding out of straight fear, all things we need to address with ourselves. Otherwise, we're only keeping ourselves in a box. Like, we can stay in our shells forever. I mean, it ain't gonna bother the rest of the world, but we're gonna snuff a lot of our power, you know?
Well, there's also, I feel like, a different, I don't know if, because what I'm like thinking right now is a different kind of vulnerability. Because like in terms of meetings, maybe I am one of those people who's too vulnerable, but also if somebody tells me something about myself, I welcome it. I welcome criticism, because maybe I rely on other people's opinions a little too much. But my issue with vulnerability is like with people that I'm scared that will hurt me. Like with my mom, till this day, I can't be vulnerable with her. I get, if I sense any sort of like judgment or anything, my defenses go up like crazy. And like, even in my relationship, sometimes if like, you know, the person's just joking, but it's like, I'm just like, I can't help but think it's like serious sometimes, because I'm like, you trying to fucking say something to me right now? Like, you know, so it's kind of,
She got the wrong one for that. Fuck around way too much.
yeah.
Oh,
But I'm doing really good.
You're doing really good.
I'm doing really good.
You're doing really, really good.
Progress.
But yeah, I don't know if that's a different kind or if it's the same.
Totally. I'm not very vulnerable socially. Like, I don't care about in meetings. I'll fucking say whatever. I'll be humble. I'll be vulnerable. I'll be emotional. I don't have that guy complex, you know, where I have to save face and can't show emotion. But socially, though, I can't be inept. I can't be weird. I can't be awkward. Otherwise, it just hits me way harder. Like, I say something stupid in a meeting, I don't give a shit. Maybe part of me is like, I kind of feel off that night, but I don't give a shit. I keep it moving. It was honest. It was whatever. But stick me in a room with like all of our friends. I'm not being this. You know, I don't know. I've just never been. What?
That's crazy. I'm the exact opposite.
Well, no shit. We're already, we're opposite as fuck.
Well, you asked me what, so I told you.
Well, I already knew that though.
Well, what the fuck did you ask me?
I don't know. But yeah, dude, that's crazy. It's crazy how many things can hit all of us in such different but super impactful ways.
You know, I just thought of something, and this is interesting too. You say you said that it's important for us to seek a balance, right, and to kind of moderate the middle when it comes to vulnerability, as you know, rather than prying wide open all the time. You know, there are times when we should be a little bit more guarded. We should be aware of who we're with, who we're talking to, things like that. Like, something that I have a problem with, and I have identified this in my newfound state of vulnerability and openness in the rooms, in relationships with people in my network, and even in my family affairs. If I'm wide open vulnerable, which 9 times out of 10, to be real, I am, I tend to feel others' pain, to an extent that it hurts, for me. I feel the pain of others to a point that it has a negative impact on my serenity. And that is the good news is I'm aware of that now, and that's something that I'm trying to apply my program to, right? And I'm trying to keep that in mind, because, more than anything else, what matters is staying clean. Okay. And if I'm in a spot where I'm inheriting somebody else's shit and getting stuck on their shit and spinning in my head over their shit, that is not guarding my recovery. That is not that's not putting my serenity above all else, and I have a tendency to do that, man, because I am a compassionate person, even in active addiction, man. Like, I still felt sorrow and pity and all that kind of shit for the people that were closest to me, based on my actions. Now, so I've heard some addicts say they had zero regard for other people's feelings while they were using. That wasn't me, man. Like, so now that I'm in recovery, like, that compassion and that, heart, if you will, is on blast, and I become very, very prone to getting stuck in somebody else's bullshit. And I've got experience on that now, you know, and so I guess the good news is that's another dollar of experience that I get to keep with me now. I've lived, because my recovery didn't get real until I started living the steps and living through things that create awakenings in my life, in my mind. You know, like I've always had a good heart, but my brain has been in a fucking wheelchair for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, these awakenings that are occurring these days, now that I've allowed set the dope down for a little while and allowed my brain to heal a little bit and clear a little bit. The awakenings are incredible, but I feel so deeply for others. So, and it's hard to keep in check, man. It's hard for me to remain focused on me. You know, it's hard for me to go into a room of addicts and hear people dumping their shit on the floor and not feel their pain and not focus on that. But I'm taught, you know, and reminded on a regular basis that recovery is a very self-centered process. Just like the disease is self-centered, recovery is also self-centered. And thank God for that, because we're all a bunch of self-centered assholes, and that's why it works for us, right? That's why it works. It's a self-centered solution. But man, like, I tell you, the pain of others is a big deal to me. And, you know, I know that I'm still early in my recovery, so I know that I haven't arrived, and I never will. At least I'm able to identify areas where I'm overly vulnerable, you know, where I leave myself at the mercy of somebody else's bullshit, you know, and that's dangerous. And at least I'm coming to a bit of an awakening on that front, that it's not worth it, dude. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And so I don't know.
Yeah, you got to protect yourself, man. I can't relate because I'm the exact opposite there. Like, a woman at my work was crying to me today that her daughter just OD'd and is on life support, and she's like bawling, and I'm just like, in my head, I'm just like, these things happen. You know, I don't know how to respond. Like, I don't feel it. And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe I couldn't handle these feelings. I know I had a experience very early in recovery where a guy I was in rehab with was like suicidal on the phone. And I literally am like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, do I call and do a wellness check? What if I get you in trouble? If I don't, what if you die? Like, I was panicked to the fucking max. And then I had a couple other guys like relapse, with none of them died, but like, it all hit me so hard in my first 30 days that I think I don't think it's a wall. I think I just put up like a decent amount of protection, or just non-attachment. But I was also that's when I got into that Buddhist type shit too, where non-attachment really resonated with me. And I think I just kind of used it for that. But I can't relate though. What about you guys? Eric, you strike me as an empath.
For sure. That's where my mind was going just now with what I've been listening to. A weird story. This happened at work last Thursday, I think. We hired a new girl, and on Thursday I went back to where I used to work to grab something, and like, I looked at her and her eyes looked at me, and I immediately could tell something was wrong. And I'm beating myself up for not saying anything, but she did speak up like a half hour later and told the new supervisor back there that she's not having a good day, and that she's been going to the bathroom and crying all day, and they sent her home. But yeah, like what Wes was saying as far as feeling people's pain, I feel it a lot with, as far as with strangers, like the coworker incident. Like, I feel it, but it doesn't really I wouldn't say it like weighs me down. It's my issue is like loved ones, like family members or someone I'm in a relationship with. Like when they are down, I feel like I go lower than they probably are because it just like it's like I want to take their pain away, and it like I can get taken down pretty far with stuff like that. And uh I don't know, recently I've been kind of practicing like the non-attachment and just looking at things differently with stuff like that. Like with my brother, he's with his mental health stuff. I don't know. Before it was like I wanted to fix it, and now it's like I just have to accept I can't fix it. And with things like that, there's going to be good days, bad days. Kind of like with recovery, like it's not we're not always happy. Like we can't be happy without the bad. Like I don't know. Like that's just I feel like I'm getting better as far as feeling people's emotions and pain, but not putting it in my backpack, so to speak, and trying to take it from them. Because I don't know. It's like it's kind of like that saying. Forgot how it goes, but like trying to take someone's pain is essentially robbing them of like getting to a better spot in life. Like if it's like enabling someone, because if you take that pain away, they're not going to heal the way that they were meant to. And it's literally like they're not going to learn the lesson that's being laid out for them. And I don't know, I try to look at it that way. It's still hard though. Like you see someone in pain or struggling, and it's just the most uncomfortable thing to see, like someone else hurting, and you know how they like how bad they're probably hurting. But at the same time, I always tell myself, like once they get through that pain, they're gonna be so much better.
No doubt. You know what we're tiptoeing on? We're tiptoeing on the topic of codependency, aren't we?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
I'm always down for some codependency talk.
I was just gonna say, like, it's funny. So I've been looking into this holistic psychologist who's got like a psychological standpoint on like recovery stuff. And people that grow up in households where you're responsible for each other's emotions, those are the ones that feel the way like you guys feel. And I have that a little bit too, but I don't know if I have it to that extent, because like I'll feel it in the moment really hard, but then I just and I'll be there for the person, but I can't say that I go to the extent of saying like, oh, I want to take your pain away. But I also have an issue with like being extremely selfish and only thinking about myself. But yeah, just like feeling like you're, like growing up, like my grandma would always be like, oh, you put me in a bad mood, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's all my fault that I did this to you, right? And it's like, then I come to, when I grow older, then I'm just like, oh man, these people made me feel this way. And it's like, you give up all your control, you give up all your power to people. You just like hand it over, and you feel like you're not in control of your life. So then you try to get control through other things to compensate for that. So that's how it happens. Instead of having that healthy point where it's like, I am in control of how I feel. Nobody can, make me feel away. I am my own, like, just, this is my life. These are my emotions. It's like something gets shifted over, and it's like you get that taken away. So then you try to take it back with other things by trying to control things externally, like other people, places, things, situations. So yeah, but I'm just really glad, like, I am bad about reaching out to people sometimes when they're going through stuff, but if you call me and if you tell me you need me, like, I'll be there for you. Like, I'll drop everything. But I have a hard time thinking during my day because I'm so caught up in my shit about that person. Like, oh man, they're going through something. So yeah.
I feel like I have a very dark, twisted outlook on this whole empathy thing. Kind of afraid to say it. Like you guys were saying, like, I want to help take their pain from them. I want you to have it. That's the first thing I thought of. Healthy, I'm like, and it sounds fucked, but it's like, I want you to feel this, because when you feel discontent, it's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I could want you to be okay with your situations. You know, we can all say, well, I wish things were different. Well, fuck, I could do that all day. You ever heard of like world peace? You know what I mean? But like,
yeah.
So it with like the exception of like close family deaths, right? Children, unexpected things, right? Sometimes a parent, grandparent's on their way out for a long time. And this phase of denial comes, and this like resistance. And then when it happens, it's like, I mean, it's been coming, right? Same thing with the lady today, or her niece, whatever, OD'd. Okay, sucks, but not surprising, right? If you feel this pain, maybe you'll talk to your other niece when you know they're using a little more passionately, a little more directly. Maybe you'll spend better time with them. Maybe you'll take care of yourself. But if you're just coming from that place of inacceptance and feeling like, feel bad about it all day, and I don't want to take that away from anybody, but I don't want to take their pain, because the pain's there. The pain will inspire growth. If I lose a parent, I'll probably spend more time with the other one. You know what I mean? If I have a great loss in my life and it helps me understand what death is, I'll cherish the people close to me more. You know, when someone from the program relapses, I might think, instead of sitting there for months wondering if I coulda, shoulda, woulda, said, did something else, I can take that, and that passion might help me help the next person. You know what I'm saying? So like, I want to feel the pain I go through. If I didn't go through the fucking pain I went through, even in recovery, if I didn't go through the pain of my last relationship, which sucked, you know, like just the inacceptance and the adapting I had to do, I wouldn't have made better relationship choices in the future. You know, if this shit was a cakewalk and my pain got alleviated right away, the fuck would I have changed? You know what I mean? So yeah, like I don't want to wish pain on anybody, but I want that growth, like that whole, you can't blossom, you know, it's painful to blossom, but that's like the caterpillar thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's painful for them to come out of their cocoon. They have to put pressure and force, and they like I think they resist till the very last second, till you can't not resist. And then they're boom, beautiful butterfly. Like, that's what it's all about, you know, if you're open to investigating what's there. If you learn to listen, because we don't know, we're never taught to listen to our feelings or our thoughts. We're not taught to adapt like that, especially when most of the average people around us are all speaking the language of the unknown, you know, like they don't know either. So we're lucky being in the circles we're in, to hear the things we hear, to be able to speak like this and have people not only resonate, but like reciprocate these types of ideas and thoughts for growth, because that's what it's all about. And yeah, I mean, fuck.
Experience.
Feel your pain.
Word.
Feel it.
I like that, Steven. That's good shit, man. I mean, how would we get our dollar of experience without living it? Right?
Gotta get that money.
Get that money. 100%.
Make it rain.
That shit rain.
Are you gonna call it "Make It Rain"? Can we call it "Make It Rain"?
Yes. No, I love that metaphor with, it's dope.
Hell yeah.
Some old asshole told me that one, and I ran with it. So, yeah.
No, I like the whole currency of experience, dollar worth of experience. Like,
I like it too.
fresh
It makes
lingo,
it-
man.
No,
It
it
makes
seems
sense.
like a lot of people have that thing where they hear it, like yours is you're not special, and his is the dollar experience.
Yeah,
I can't
and
take credit for
given active addiction generally brings us all to the same place, broke as fuck. at least we're able to rebuild with a currency that helps us live on a daily basis, as opposed to contributing to the fuckery that is active, active addiction and use. So it's funny.
I
It's
showed
like,
up to my first meeting with a little, can you spare some change cup? And then
Did you,
homie on
bro?
his first day come in trying to slang these coupons of experience to me. I'm like, those got no credit here.
That ain't what I'm looking for.
What the fuck is that? Monopoly money? That shit out of here. Shut up.
I can't buy nothing with that shit. Yeah, that's funny.
Rubles here. Sorry. It's Russian money.
Got it. You're on mute.
I don't know what I got. Can we circle back to the codependency thing for a minute?
Did we ever get on it? I feel like we talked about
No,
it.
it's like I
never
said
got
some,
there.
and you're just like, yeah, so empaths.
I dangled it.
Yeah.
I dangled that carrot
All
out
right.
there.
Codependency.
I thought Anna was gonna grab it and run with it, but it was like we just barely touched it. So, Eric,
I wanted to go
take it-
back. This is gonna be
take it
the
to the
circle
house,
back.
Eric.
We're gonna keep circling
It's
back.
fine. We all got some we want to say, and like it does.
We got four people here.
I know,
We
four
never
people.
did this before. I don't know what we're
Four
doing.
brains. All right, Eric. Sorry. The
Or
floor is
fucked up brain.
I was just gonna say with codependency, up until Steven sent me some of the readings for the Coda group, I didn't think I was a codependent. Like, it's crazy. I had a girlfriend a long time ago, and I would always think, geez, you're so codependent. But looking back at it and looking at those readings and just looking at myself, like I struggle with it hardcore, like with friends, even with family. Like, I don't know. I feel like it goes back to when I was younger, and like my dad wasn't there, and my mom on the weekend, she wasn't there, and she worked 12 hours during the weekdays. But like ever since then, it's almost like I've had this belief in my head that I needed people, and it's turned into just like codependency. And I don't know, it's cool to recognize, because now I don't feel like it's causing problems the way it used to. But I'm definitely a codependent, and I didn't think that up until like a couple months ago.
Well, it's like they say on the Some Buddies podcast, we're social creatures, you know, we're born to group together, to seek love, connect, you know what I mean? And I think that's just another balance thing, because I wouldn't consider myself a codependent. You know, I've always been a little more antisocial, but even introverts or antisocial people crave connection. There's just that social fear. So if you stick me in the house alone for a week, I feel effects of it. I'm not just, ooh, this is the best life ever. Now, if I get a night or two to myself, I don't freak out. You know what I mean? I don't sit there like I have to be with someone. But after a minute, though, I kind of do. You know what I mean? And it doesn't react in me and give me a thought that I need to seek connection. But I know the feeling I get is a lack of connection, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not used to, like when I used to live on my own, like I'm talking still in addiction, still not dating for a long time. I'd feel all those empty feelings, but I would always think it was something else. And maybe it was something else mixed with this, you know, antisocial, you know, disconnect from people. But like, I get that same feeling nowadays if I have too much time alone. And I mean, enough time alone where I get my me time, I get the shit done that I want to get done. And then it's kind of like this now what feeling where, all right, now I'm alone. I kind of miss somebody. I want to be with somebody. Like I'm feeling it more now that I've kind of dropped some of these like emotional walls. This chick keeps talking about me having, you know what I mean? So now when we like spend like a night or two away from each other, I actually do kind of feel that feeling, you know, whereas before I was so used to being alone, it was easier to just, I don't know, not feel it. Wasn't used to having that. But I think balance is a good key.
Yeah, dude. Oh, codependency.
Here we go.
Get out of here. No, so first of all, I think most addicts are initially codependent. Most.
Yeah.
So we basically, whatever we lacked in our childhood, that is what we continue to see, you know, later on in life. So if anybody's got abandonment issues or, you know, just any sort of like trauma that has to do with people, like that makes us codependent. That makes us just keep trying to get that something that we never got, and trying to find somebody to save us, or trying to, you know, just hate ourselves so much that we gotta like put our focus outside of ourselves, like try to run after anything that's not us that will make us escape ourselves. And those top easiest things are, you know, drugs and alcohol and people. And then of course you got like workaholics and blah blah blah, but those are, you know, not as easy quick fix. But you know, like I used to have to, I needed to constantly be surrounded by friends. I constantly needed to be hanging out with somebody, you know, because, and that was my codependency. It wasn't necessarily like relationships. I mean, it was, but like I had a whole different weird thing with that shit. But yeah, it's, I just, if I'm with somebody else, it's like I don't have to think about myself. I don't have to think about what I need to do. I don't have to, you know, I can just, yeah, it's just, it's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, it's essentially just being addicted to people.
Well, here's the thing too that I want to add is, for me, it was about learning that another person does not hold my missing piece. You know what I mean? Like I used to look to like relationships specifically, even friends, I guess. These friends are part of my unit. You know, we are a group. This is the crew. That gave me a sense of like a collective ego. I'm a part of this. This is something cool. This needs to stick together. This needs to thrive. But then in a relationship, it was like, this person needs to understand me, needs to connect with me, needs to like my music, needs to laugh at my jokes, you know, the sex needs to be bomb, you know? So it was all this like, but on the deepest core part of the level, it had to be my other half. You know, we hear it all the time, my better half, my other half, blah, blah, blah.
Twin flame.
Yeah, that gives us this concept that we are not whole, that our serenity and our peace lies in another. So when we think we found that person, we got a couple fucking googly eyes and we've laughed at a couple things and probably got butterflies when we graze their arm. We get to thinking this is it. And then, you know, if things end up not going that way because it doesn't live up to the fantasy of our heads, or, you know, shit just goes left or people change, you know, we just don't vibe anymore. Now I'm not breaking up with someone who's not good for me. I'm not making a decision in the now on who these two people are in the now. I am losing my missing piece. How do I get it back? How do I make sure my piece that no longer fits in this hole fits this hole? That's when we start having expectations even further. That's when we start trying to change our partners. That's when we try to sacrifice our morals to make shit work. And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's so hard to do because, you know, nobody thinks about all these multiple levels going on. But the main thing, I don't have a missing piece. You know what I mean? I can appreciate someone else's time. We can be two wholes that vibe and work well as a unit, but I don't have your missing piece and you don't have mine. You know what I mean? That was something that I feel was really, really made me stop needing someone. It's cool to want them. It's cool to appreciate them. It's cool to love them, but to need them on a deep level, that just wasn't good for me.
We certainly cannot control the actions of others. So if I'm, you know, I appreciate that, Stephen, because if I'm in need mode and I've got myself convinced that another person has something that is pendant that I am dependent on, how about that, right?
Codependent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a dangerous place to be. It's a dangerous fucking place. You know, and I'm speaking clearly from experience and having just recently experienced something like this. And I'm real thankful that I am where I am in order to take this shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing is in a previous state, and we talked about, you know, some of the, like, these things are things that take us out, man, take us down. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is not, if we are not implementing a program and acknowledging our powerlessness over people, places, and things, if I am not acknowledging my powerlessness over those people, places, and things, this kind of, you know, dependency on others is the kind of shit that takes us to the deepest, takes me to the deepest hole that I can fucking find, you know? Because I feel like, you know, something that is a life source has been ripped from my arms. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit is bad news. And so identifying that and acknowledging that, you know, that it's much more conducive to my continued recovery to continue to, or not continue, but to kind of change my do what I can to change my perspective, turn it over to my higher power, and to continue to try to develop a different view on my interaction with others, and how I'm not looking for some shit to complete me, right? We are here for us. We can all find our own whole through recovery. We can all become our version of the whole through recovery. And that does not require other people. I mean, we get suggestions. We have fucking, the spiritual principles are my best friends at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, that, those, I know one thing's for sure. If I stay in the program and I stay in the principles, those principles will not let me down. I'm sure of that, you know? And I am completely powerless over what other people's, what other people are doing, you know? And what their recovery looks like, you know? Like, it's a matter of, the only recovery that I know is to, like, a book is mine individual. It's an individual experience. We recover at different speeds. We recover through different points of awakening. You know, some of us, like myself, who have lived a fundamentally dishonest life for a very long time find liberation in honesty, you know. And we, you know, speaking from experience, I don't know another way at this point other than to fucking lay it down. Raw, real, completely honest. And some people aren't ready for that shit. That's just what it boils down to, you know? And I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Like, I have to be okay with that because I know that works for me. You know what I'm saying? That level of vulnerability and that level of straight up, unbridled honesty when it comes to my story is what liberated me, right? Because I was living a lie in the rooms for 2 years. So what's the major change this time around for me? It's honesty. I get high off being liberatingly honest. It makes me feel incredible because it took me so long to get to a point where I could do it, you know. And that's the new like that's I was talking to my sponsor yesterday, and I was like, I think honesty is my new drug of choice.
It's
no
just
joke.
So fresh and new to you right now.
Yeah, so we can. Yeah, it's crazy because exactly. It's fresh, it's new, and it's also. It's bewildering to me that I lived as long as I lived in denial, and I was so dishonest to myself that I had no concept of what level of honesty I was carrying out towards other people. You know, now I do. Now I have that. Now I have that awareness. You know, I can look back and see the shit show and understand how bad that fucked my life up, and also see. Just in a matter of, you know, just in a short matter of time, I could see the difference that in everything that honesty has made in my life.
And you're starting to feel what it feels like to let go of all the guards, of all the planning, of all the manipulating, of all the storytelling. You know, I can imagine that's a heavy burden to carry because you got to think when you're being dishonest, you're creating a narrative, you're controlling everything. You got like 50 plates spinning. So I mean, the amount of pressure and, you know, attention that requires. Now it's just like, I'm letting go, man. Like, you ask me a question, I don't have to scramble. I don't have to flip through and remember what I told you last time. It's effortless. It's light. You know what I mean? And the more you get out, the more you're just like, this is it, man. And just that letting go feeling is probably a really good feeling to you. You know, like
and just
fresh new drug.
And being okay with laying it down like that. You know what I'm saying? Like the feeling of, you know what? I'm going to say what is on my mind, and I am okay with whatever results from that. You know, like.
Don't forget to be tactful, though.
What's that?
Don't forget to be tactful with your honesty. Because I did that. I went from being the overthinking, very quiet, very reserved introvert in my head to hitting a breaking point where I was like, you know what? I'm about to tell everybody everything about everything. And it was honest. It was my truth. However, it was really unfiltered, really unwarranted, very untactful. So remember balance when you move forward, because this time around, it was like I went through the extreme of shutting down. I went through the extreme of exploding. I went back to the extreme of shutting down. Now it's like, let's let loose the vent, but let's have a let's have a little bit of a measuring stick there. Let's have a little bit of a filter, and for me, it comes down to being honest and being selectively tactful of how I deliver that honesty. Like if I think you're fucking up, I could just come right out and tell you, hey man, I think you're being a fuck up right now. But that's not tactful. That's my truth. It may not be your truth. It may not be effective. It may not be polite. It may not be, really necessary. You know what I mean? Like, so learning how to navigate these things while keeping your integrity, I think is huge, because then being too honest, being too out there it can ruffle to some things and then make you want to go back to the other extreme of, fuck, man, I'm starting to cause problems with my honesty. You know what I mean? Because I'm overloading people who aren't,
that's fucking fire. And I'm sitting here thinking about just like honesty, just like every other, spiritual principle of a recovery program. It's just like every other one, where what we are striving to do is moderate the middle ground, right? Moderate the middle ground of all this shit, because as addicts, we are prone to the extremes, right? And so honesty, like I have to moderate that honesty to an extent, like you're saying, because my actions do impact other people, and also in turn come back and impact me. I have to even middle road willingness, right? The willingness to let's say be a part of somebody else's recovery to a point where, if I am too invested in another person, back to the codependency shit, I'm in an extreme point of willingness, and that's dangerous, right? So it's literally seeking a balance within the principles, and staying away from those extremes. Anything recovery is, for me, about staying out of the extremes.
For sure. And that doesn't mean you want to find the balance between honesty and dishonesty, right? But you don't need to let everything come out overwhelmingly honest, because we'll take that as every thought that comes in my head needs to come out of my mouth. Everything that I think is truth. And I mean, we already know where that goes. But so like if I'm pissed off, let's say someone pisses me off and I truly think these things, this is my point of view and I am mad and this is what I want to say. It's dishonest for me to be like, no, nothing's wrong. But it's still honest for me to say, I don't feel like talking about that right now. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Like I've learned to like harness that, there's times where I have like a critical stance on something someone's doing, but I don't necessarily have to say it. It may not be helpful. It may not be just necessary at that moment. It's still true to me. It's still something that I could get away with and look back and say I was being honest, but it's not really necessary. So I don't know. That's just something I had to choose to learn to navigate with, because it was pretty difficult. You're real honest, though. She was raised to be bluntly honest.
I have been holding back a lot.
Today?
No, like in general.
No, I know. That's not a criticism to say you're too honest. I'm just saying you were raised to be directly, bluntly honest.
Well, yeah, it's the culture. It's kind of a different topic, but the mentality is like, instead of, because here in America, people are afraid of hurting each other's feelings and you have to be nice and smile and stuff. And over there, it's like, you gotta say like the truth. And it's kind of it's a different dynamic in the friendships that I have there, where it's like we'd be screaming in each other's faces, calling each other names, and then we're like laughing about it. And over here, it's like, oh no, honey, I like your shirt. Like, oh, like it's, But it was kind of a culture shock, though, like going from that to this, and just not being understood, and people are scared of me at school. So it was kind of like I'm this horrible like person that, you know, a lot of people don't like. So can we get off of this now?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to wrap it up
I'm
anyway. I gotta
I'm
work in the
sitting here
morning.
visioning Anna's fucking high school classmates like scared as she's walking down the hallway, like waiting for a Russian fucking explosion or some shit. I don't know. That's how it manifested itself in my brain.